Hey everybody, this is Captain Will Ware with the EFB team. I wanted to do a good video that kind of explains what the integrated dashboard concept is. Just so you know, this is in the PMA tool and it has been approved to research and evaluation. And I hope that this video will help people kind of understand the concept. So if you think about our current EFB, we have multiple applications from different vendors, and they all have different user interfaces. So we have Jepson FD Pro that has all of our navigational charts and maps. We use My Mobile 365 for documents and forms and communication. We also use the WSI weather application for more detailed weather data than we have in JepFD Pro. We also have the AeroData application and many more. So what this does to the pilot is makes the pilot go hunt and peck for information from this app to that app. You're digging in and having to switch apps, and it works, but it certainly isn't as user-friendly as it could be. So the industry is really moving towards integrating all this data into one user interface, thus the integrated dashboard. So if we think about American Airlines has about 15 applications, United has about 12. We don't have that many because we have less airplanes, but that kind of gives you an idea of the landscape out there. And if we look at the flight ops strategy priorities, there are a number of them here from flight ops as well as the corporate that I think this integrated dashboard ties to. So we also have some themes around the EFB that we like to kind of hold on to. It kind of gives us some guidance. Number one, the flight deck tools require unique solutions for a unique environment. In other words, it's hard to build things in-house that may work off the airplane but don't necessarily work in the flight deck. So sometimes we have some regulatory rules around that, and that means that sometimes we have to have some very unique solutions for the cockpit. The success of a tool is the employee's willingness to adopt it. So if you have a great tool, people are going to use it and they're going to move away from the current ways of doing things. We also believe that PDF is not paperless. PDF is simply an image of a current paper document, if you will. Our manual set in My Mobile 365 is really just a copy of the current paper document, even though we can electronically transport it. It's really not doing anything for us. And that kind of gets to smart data. Smart data must serve the pilot to prepare better and reduce risk. So we've got to find the information that is important to the pilot and expose it in such a way that it's easily consumable. And it needs to be simplified and elegant workflow. And I think you'll see that in this integrated dashboard. And the last bullet there is integrated, connected, and smart. So we've got to integrate all these things into one dashboard. We've got to have it connected through either cellular or Wi-Fi, and it's got to be smart. And the two things on the bottom, the design and build towards a scalable and efficient process, and recruit and retain the best talent. Those are some of the themes that the corporate and the flight operations themes that I think these tie to. So today, in the current dispatch release at the top left, you'll see all this paperwork. And we also have a paper logbook for writing things up when something breaks in the airplane. So I think as we move forward, we want to move away from this paper and go to a digital dispatch release. And from a paper logbook, we want to move into a e-tech log, right? We also are exploring de-icing applications, and we're also looking at flight path optimization. So remember, we already had 4 applications: JepFD Pro, My Mobile 365, WSI, and the AeroData CFDP app. Now we're adding 4 more applications: digital dispatch release, e-tech log, de-ice, and flight path optimization. Now we're up to 8 applications. So how do we pull all of that together and make it elegant and simple? Well, we also have to think about data that needs to be surfaced, right? So in a paper world, here's the dispatch release, and all of these little lines and circles and check marks and asterisks, those are some of my chicken scratch when I get a dispatch release, and other pilots do similar things. And why is that important? Why is it important to circle some things and put check marks on others? Well, we need to surface some of that information to help the pilot absorb this amount of information that they need to. And that's kind of how some of these integrated dashboards are doing that. They're taking all the data from a dispatch release and they're putting it in an elegant view so that it's easier to see things that are important, like weather and NOTAMs and waypoints and weights and times, weather, etc. So AVIOBOOK is something that we've watched for many, many years in the EFB space. We were actually very excited about it in the very early days of the EFB, but it was just a bit too much to pull in at that time. And to be quite honest, we didn't have the plethora of applications that we do now. And I think it's about time that we start considering this. So here is AVIOBOOK. It's a single app, and it's an interface for pilots that doesn't change as the back-end systems are changed. So think about all of the Invicta work that's going on at Southwest Airlines. A new flight planning system, a new crew system, a new this system, a new training system, a new LMS. As things continue to iterate and evolve and mature in the back-end systems of Southwest, what we want to do is isolate our pilots from that change. So a single user interface will remain the same no matter what pipes, if you will, that we plug into the back of that interface. And this helps reduce pilot change fatigue, and it just makes it easy for pilots to get to the information. And that this underlined sentence is the one that it draws me the most to AVIOBOOK, is it's only 2 clicks to get to any data point you want. And I'll show you what I mean by that in the interface. And below are the 2 design and build towards a scalable and efficient process and equip our employees. That comes from our corporate and flat ops strategic goals. So AVIOBOOK. AVIOBOOK has a number of modules that are all contained in one application, into one suite, if you will. And they share data in between modules. So let's say you receive a flight plan in the digital dispatch release module. The aircraft, the crew, the time, the date, all of that goes right on through performance and goes right on through all the way to eTech log because it shares all that information. It's a consistent UI, and it has a full audit capability on the back end. And below is a kind of a list of some of the modules that they offer. Now, I think the ones that apply to us the most is AVIOBOOK, which is the pilot's version of this, AVIOCabin, which is the flight attendant's version, AVIOTech, which would be the eTech log for our maintenance technicians, AVIOConnect, which is a very interesting piece. That is actually connecting pilots, flight attendants, dispatchers, ops agents with a texting ability. So if you think of a flight, a text message, if you will, around a flight. And I think that is a goal that we've had for quite a long time. And then the big one in the middle is AVIOBase. That's the OCC, dispatch, maintenance control, tail management, all of that. That's the heart of the different modules. Now they have other modules as well, and who knows, we may be interested in looking at them, but I think the ones that I have highlighted here will get us going in a really well way. So we need to go from this paper world into this. This is AVIOBOOK. And you'll see a lot of things here. At the very bottom, you see modules. In one module you do not see because I just don't have it in the demo is the tech log, but We have shown that to some in Tech Ops, and I think they like that as well. Um, but the modules at the bottom, so being 2 clicks from anything is you click a module, and then on the left-hand side, there are different buttons that you can click, so you're really 2 clicks away from any kind of information. And you'll see color coding there, which helps highlight information, draws your eye to something that's important. We need to know that AVIOBOOK has a very strong customer base. Majority of them are in Europe. Why? Because in Europe they don't have a dispatcher requirement like we do here, so they use this tool for self-dispatching. Plus, state-owned airlines often have a bit more money to spend on tools like that. They do also have some hardware because they are a Thales company as well. AVIOBOOK is owned by the mother company of Thales, if you will. So they have some hardware out there as well. But one of their strongest suits is integrations, and this kind of gives you a really good overview of the integrations that they have done. This is kind of their core competency. They're going into an airline, connecting to various systems in that airline to expose that data into the UI that we've been talking about, AVIOBOOK. Some that are very important to us would be Jeppesen, right? You'll also see IFS maintenance there, Amadeus, and others. So one of them that I don't see listed on here, but we have asked them to do, and I think it would be very easy for them to do, is an integration with Comply 365 as well. So that way, Comply 365 is your core. It is your repository for documents. However, they would be able to draw those documents in. I think we can talk about that in the demo a little bit later. So that's what we're going to get to next. We're going to get to an AVIOBOOK demo. I'm going to stop this particular, I've been doing this through Keynote, and I'm going to stop this recording now, and then we will open back up with the actual AVIOBOOK demo. So in the previous video, I mentioned Avio Connect, but I really didn't have a slide or anything to show it. This is an amazing communication suite that is offered by AVIOBOOK, and I think it's very important to talk about this because I think the connection between the pilots, the flight attendants, the ops agent, the dispatcher, is really where we can streamline our operation. So in this tool, it is a secure communication application. It's encrypted both in transit and on device. If you will, when a flight is opened, there is a flight room, and that basically a chat room, if you will. And that chat room would include the actors that we define, be it the pilots and the flight attendants. Eventually we can bring in ops agents, dispatchers, things like that, right? So we would identify who should be pulled into this chat room, and it would be really great for, let's say, dispatch knows there's a delay. They send a chat, hey, your flight's delayed another 10 minutes because we're waiting for an inbound flight. That way all the flight attendants and both pilots know everything that's going on, even the ops agent if they were connected into that. So they can run on, a desktop computer, on a mobile device. It's a really amazing idea there. Now the dispatch tool I think is web-based only, which is fine because that's probably what they would be using. And there is a ability to de-identify this at the end, so it's just captain, first officer, flight attendant, ops agent, and that would be really good for business analytics on the back end. So just wanted to do a little quick video on what Avio Connect was and that it is part of their suite. Are in the AVIOBOOK demo. I'm going to stress demo. This is not a live connection. I'm not going to be able to pull live flights. I'm not going to be able to pull, connect to our crew systems or anything like that. It's simply a demo. So AVIOBOOK did set up a server specifically for us where we could load some data in and try to make this as realistic as we could in a demo. But I hope that many departments get to see this video, because what I want you to do is understand kind of how the interface works, but also envision what we could do with it, because as I said at the bottom, there are modules: main, briefing, OFP, which stands for original flight plan, performance, FD Pro, which is Jeppesen FD Pro, reports, library, tools, globe, which is basically weather, checklist, and if I had my perfect demo, it would also have the tech log in there. Other departments, let's say safety, imagine being able to put safety alerts right in front of your pilots, those kind of things. So as we go through that, kind of imagine what we could do, because the center of this screen, there are the modules on the bottom, there's some buttons on the left-hand side, but the center of the screen is XML, which means we can write that center screen to be whatever we want it to be. Typically across the industry that AVIOBOOK works with, it's not user customizable, if that's a word, in the center screen, because they deal with some pretty smaller carriers. But I think for a big fish like Southwest, they'll make some changes. At least that's what they've indicated. So let's jump into the demo here. We're at the main page, and on the left we have legs. So if this was properly connected, it would know that these are the legs that I'm scheduled to fly today. And then we have notifications. I just put one up here. There's a Jeppesen chart issue. You could click into that and read some more information about, if there's anything there. So think of this as your weather page, right? Or your cover letter of the weather packet. This is where you could put some specific information. You could even have mandatory ones. I didn't put anything there. I just did an example to show what notifications could look like. And then there's updates, which I've already updated because part of the demo is not watching the app update, but that's where you would go for updates. So that's what the main module is. Now we'll go into the briefing. I have to select a leg. So let's say we're going to fly this leg. And then I'm going to go to briefing. Now, as I said, this is a demo, and the center screen is XML, and we can change that as we want. But today, what they're doing is they're stripping the data from the dispatch release, and they're populating this information. Right at the very top, I know who my dispatcher is, and I know what the phone number is to contact them, and I know it's version 1 of the OFP. And we're going from Cancun to Fort Lauderdale, departure arrival times, time en route, ATC routing, some basic fuel. 13,000 pounds sounds a little light, but as I said, it's a demo here, right? So we have some other information down here at the bottom. Flight box is where it gets pretty interesting. Sorry about the notifications dropping in. Flight box. So what's really cool about AVIOBOOK and the integration that we could do with My Mobile is we could say anytime we're flying from this city, Cancun, to that city, Fort Lauderdale, go into Comply and pull these documents. So you'll see a station information page for both. You'll also see an international terrain, an orientation chart, a layover guide, a route briefing, as well as the flight plan and TLR and things like that. So what's really cool is you can say specific to this airport, whenever a pilot is going to this airport, I want you to expose this information in front of them. And one of our airlines here in the U.S., it happens to be United, is going to launch with AVIOBOOK. And one of the things that they are doing with this flight box, and it pretty much paid for their subscription, is increasing single engine taxi adherence. So they're actually putting some documents right in flight box at specific airports to encourage pilots to do more single engine taxi. And we could do something like that as well. So that's what Flightbox is. And this is just a PDF. I know the one says the paper flight plan, and but that's actually the TLR. I think I just misnamed that, if you will. I'm going to close out of that, but that's how those documents do. And this one says takeoff landing report, and it's actually the dispatch release. Oh well, that's part of a demo, I suppose. But this is the PDF of the dispatch release. And what's really good about this is, especially during change management, when you're going from one process to another, we're going from paper to electronic. Here is a PDF of what pilots are comfortable seeing, right? So we're not blowing their minds too much. If I tap on it, I can X out of that as well. Here's weather. So these are just some charts for that flight, maybe some winds, or you'll also see these are the WSI weather charts that we get in the current weather packet. So the good thing about this is we can plug in just about anything. We can plug in any weather source that we want, WSI, National Weather Service, DTN, whatever. We can plug in all those kind of things in here. NOTAMs is where it gets pretty interesting as well. So here are the NOTAMs for the Cancun airport. But as we scroll through, you see how things are color-coded. So you can, as a company, say if there's any NOTAM that has to do with a runway or an MDA or something like that, change its color. And this is a first iteration of trying to get smarter with NOTAMs. And if there's one that's very important to you, you can hit the little star button here, and that favorites that. And that way you can go down here to bookmarks, and those are the NOTAMs that are very important to you. Still a lot of work to do, in NOTAMs. If you want to view one full screen, you can pull it up like this. But one of the things that we've asked AVIOBOOK about is, I know what my wheels up time, my wheels down time is. Can we sort the NOTAMs by those times, right? So that'll be very interesting to see what we can do in the future. And then on the bottom, there's an ATC button. To be quite honest with you, this is just where some stuff was populated for the demo because we're not changing the middle screen right now. All right, let's go off for briefing over to OFP, Operational Flight Plan. Now this is where, I'm going to switch back to the briefing for a second in Flightbox, in dispatch release. This is where we're taking this data off of the dispatch release and populating it into this center screen. Now, this is true digital dispatch release. At the top right, I can accept the OFP. I'm going to say that I confirm that. Put in my, oh gosh, I don't even know my number. And you see it turn yellow and then turn green. That means on the back-end system at my dispatcher can see that I have signed the release. So we're good. If a new release came up, this would be highlighted that a new version 2 is out. But you can see some basic fuel stack over here, some basic plans, and again, this is a demo, but we could go in and use XML and rewrite this to whatever we want. There's also fit for duty that we could sign off for as well. Now, Navlog. So these are the waypoints in the flight plan, and I can click on any of them, and if I click on the little stopwatch, I can edit the altitude, right? Those are the planned, and here's your actual flight level, your actual time, actual fuel. You can go in there and edit that. And then when you edit that, you confirm it, and it's going to recalculate for the rest of your waypoints. And then you can actually submit that at the end of the flight. You can add a note, maybe ATC held us down during climb. You can put that kind of thing in as a note. and you can even change the route if you had to. You can delete, go direct, whatever you need to do. So that's a nav log or a journey log. There are also some notes, right? Here are the notes that we have put in. And then there's also a place for you to put delay codes, something like that, arrival delays. Again, this is all customizable. We can make this do whatever we want, and at the end of the flight, you just hit submit. And then extra info, again, since this is a demo, we just put the winds and the frequencies in there. So that's the OFP module. Now, performance. There is an integration that we could do with AeroData to have a takeoff visualization, a takeoff input, like right now all you see is landing. That takeoff input, imagine we have an outage like we did with AeroData the other day. We could do, put in the number of passengers, put in the number of baggage, the number of fuel, give you a weight and balance envelope, and calculate a takeoff. And that would be really up to our, flight ops engineering team, who do that kind of thing. But I'm just saying the capability is there. Now, on the landing module, what's cool is I've told you that information always comes over. So all this information that you see at the top, the flight number, we're going from Cancun to Fort Lauderdale, all that comes over into the landing module here. And it knows that we're landing at Fort Lauderdale. All we have to do is tell it which runway we're going to land on. And we'll say it's good. And it should actually pull the weather in from there. Let me see if I can hit the recycle and see if it updates the weather. It should pull the actual weather in from Fort Lauderdale. I see it's got 6 knots, but there's no direction, and it could be light and variable. Let's see if it pulls it in. If not, we'll manually enter one. But that's a cool thing about being connected. Remember, I talked about being smart and connected. It's smart, meaning it's pulling the data from the original flight plan, and it's connected via the Wi-Fi down to the ground, and it can pull this kind of weather information so the pilots aren't having to do it. So, okay, for the demo, let's add in 240, that's the winds. And QNH 1024. It's in Haskell Pascals, but again, it's a demo. We'd have to have it in inches of mercury. But you see when I put in the winds, it already tells me I've got a 4-knot crosswind and a 5-knot headwind right there. That's pretty cool. Here's the METAR. I've got to put a landing weight in, so let's go 124. And we're going to be, yep. Let's do auto brakes 2. And thrust reversers all, speed brake auto, calculate. So when I do that, check this out. Visualizes my landing data, right? I've got a 4-knot crosswind from the left, a 5-knot headwind, and I've got a stopping margin of 181 meters. Okay, since that stopping margin wasn't all that great, 181 meters, let's go and do auto brakes 3 instead of auto brakes 2. And put my landing weight in one more time, hit calculate. Oh, that gave us a 632 meter stopping margin, so that's a little bit better. You can actually visually see, what you're doing. So there could be a takeoff module to this. It could be a landing module as well. The next module is Flight Deck Pro. Really, all this does is launch FD Pro. Okay, make a liar out of me. Launch FD Pro and load the route. Do you want to load the route? Yes, load. And that's what it does, loads the route. So really in flight, here's your 2 apps. You're in AVIOBOOK and you're in JumpFD Pro. It's really the 2 apps that you'd be flying with. That's all FD Pro does. Reports, I don't know, there are various reports that we could put in here. Maybe we could tie this to SOAR, the project of doing, IRs and ASAPs and things like that. It's just a demo, but you could put bird strike, I don't know, whatever we'd want to put in. Library, this is a unique place too, where if we have the integration with comply, you really only have the documents you need to go fly with. If you need to go into comply, you can, but it would pull, the AOM, FOM, MEL, QRH, whatever we need, specific to flying. So it kind of declutters the pilot's mind, right? I'm flying, these are all the manuals and such that I need to fly. So, it's pretty simple. Here's AOM, it's an easy breakdown. I want to go to aircraft general and, look at emergency equipment locations, those kind of things. Easy to get to. Tools, so I don't actually know what this is. I think this is a little calculator for doing different things, but they do have a holdover time here, and this is interesting work as well. So First Officer Keltner Morris is doing a lot of work around de-icing applications. We could bring some of those table lookups directly into here. Again, keeping everything in the same user interface, and I think that's a really cool opportunity as well. Globe is simply that. It is a picture of the globe with weather and different layers. So there's EDR turbulence, thunderstorms, thunderstorm forecast, radar. I don't know if there's much radar going on today. Here's a little bit of snow out west and some stuff, but you can kind of see how that works. And again, it's just keeping your entire briefing in one application. And I guess it's important to say that here we can plug in anything we want to. We can plug in our own EDR data into this. We could plug the IATA EDR data, WSI, whatever. We could plug any of those different pipes into the back, because to a pilot it's just weather, right? It may mean something to us as a company as to which weather source we're serving, but to a pilot it's just weather, and we're giving it to them right there. Then the last thing, checklist. It doesn't actually work in this demo because the URL that fires up the screen is missing, but that would also be where tech log would be. So if I had an open write-up on a flight, I would open up a defect and it would automatically bring in, hey, it's Southwest 621 from Cancun to Fort Lauderdale. And what's really cool about an e-tech log, if you're not familiar with it, is that today pilots write in, there's a weird noise from the right side of the airplane, air conditioning. And then our tech ops has to come out and kind of decipher what the pilot was saying. In an e-tech log, you would say there's a problem with this system, air, and that drives a particular code, and then right side, and air leak or something like that. In other words, as you go through, you drill down through a menu, it's driving what's called an ATA code, which really gives our tech ops people a lot more specific information to go by. And then you can still write in like you normally would as a pilot. And what's cool about that is we could write that up while we're flying to Fort Lauderdale, so that maybe our maintenance folks are on the ground waiting for us with a part rather than a question. They know exactly what's wrong and they have the piece to fix it. And then conversely, the crew, let's say we're doing a plane change in Fort Lauderdale, the crew that's waiting on the ground there could open up their tech log and say, oh, the inbound crew has opened a write-up. Here it is. I understand what that is. Tech Ops is going to MEL it or whatever. Oh, that might affect my next flight going from Fort Lauderdale back to Dallas or whatever. So I know this is a long video. There's a lot to consume. I hope you see the value of having all of this data integrated into one unified dashboard. I think it's important that we give our pilots this kind of tool that helps them more quickly, how could I put this, more quickly consume a lot of data that's important to them, and how we can put important data in front of them too. That's kind of where the flight box comes in. So I hope you enjoyed this. Feel free to share the video with others. As an evangelist, I hope that more people see it and get excited by it, and we continue working towards a solution such as this.